So we're going to talk a bit about two of our customers' use cases. We're going to do this talk show style, and I'll be asking questions, and then we're going to leave time for you all to answer questions. We'll have mic runners in the audience. So if you do have questions, just take a note, and then we'll jump in. All right, so let me bring them up on stage. With me today, Tony Herzempa, Senior IT Systems Engineer for Syracuse University. Let's give them a warm welcome. They're nervous. Tim Branham, Director of IT, Kingston Police. And Hannah Stevens, Lead Customer Success Coordinator, Scale Computing. All right. All right, I'm going to give a little bit of background before we jump into the questions. Let me tell you a little bit about Syracuse University and Kingston Police, so to give you context as we go into these questions. Kingston Police is one of the oldest police forces in Canada, formed in 1841, employing 273 staff members with a budget of over $44 million. Kingston Police serves, supports, and protects the safety of over 135,000 residents of the southeastern Ontario city of Kingston. Tim Branham, a 25-year IT veteran, joined the Kingston Police as the Director of IT in May 2022. In this capacity, Branham oversees a small team of 4 IT specialists who ensure that the police officers and supporting personnel can access critical information when needed, whether in one of their 2 emergency command posts or across its fleet of over 140 emergency vehicles. And then for some context on Syracuse University. Established in 1870, Syracuse University is a private research university in Syracuse, New York. The university has more than 22,000 matriculated students, supported by more than 3,800 administrative staff members. As Syracuse University's Senior IT Systems Engineer, Tony Herzempa oversees the facility's IT infrastructure for building automation. All right. So Tim and Tony, I've given the basics on what you do and what you're responsible for. But Tim, why don't you go first and kind of fill in some of the gaps that I left behind?
Sure. So I've been, like I said, I've been working for the Kingston Police for about 2 years now. We have a small IT team, 4 people. We've been using Scale for a little over a year, I guess, right now at this place. Have about 100 different VMs on our systems, Linux and Windows. And we support basically everything computer-related in the IT environment in our agency, as well as critical 911 systems. So it definitely has some challenges with that as well.
And you said, I'm sorry, how many VMs?
About 100 VMs.
About 100 VMs.
Yeah.
Great. And how many clusters do you have?
Oh, sorry. We have 2 clusters. So we have our primary cluster is at our primary site, and then we are replicating that over to our DR site at a different co-location across the city.
Great. All right, Tony, you're up.
Yes, I'm one of a 2-person IT team, pretty small. We support the energy management group and the building automation systems that they support across campus, all the buildings for HVAC, card access, metering, and do a lot of other support as well as networking, application, database. Things are stretched as far as fitting things in and deploying new environments like Scale. So we were looking to upgrade, and late last year we deployed 2 clusters, 3 nodes each. We have 2 data centers, 1 in each data center. And so far we are about halfway through migration, fitting things in as you can when a lot of unexpected stuff comes up. So it's going well. So.
Things come up in IT?
Yeah, that's right. Crazy thing, right?
How many VMs are you expecting once you migrate?
We'll probably end up close to 80, I think, split across the 2 clusters. And so I'm doing replication for the DR part of it. So it's kind of a split load. And the data centers they're separated by, I think, maybe 2-3 miles.
So you're not worried about students going in there and having parties? They're locked up?
No, I don't think so.
All right, Hannah, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role?
So I am the lead customer success coordinator for the services team. We are a tight-knit group of, really high-level customer success advocates for all of our customers and partners. We reach out and do project planning from start to finish. Adhere to timelines that customers and partners want to, get their implementation off the ground and running as soon as possible. Some have all the time in the world, and we're excited about those as well. And then also, we're supported by, of course, the best ever support team and services technical engineers on the planet. So, that's kind of day to day. We take care of scheduling and implementation from start to finish, and supporting not only our support and services team, but also our customers and partners with those advocates as well.
Perfect. All right, so thank you, Hannah. And during this session, please feel free to jump in. She's going to be our resident scale computing expert to give color to some of the scenarios that Tim and Tony are going to walk us through. All right, Tony, I'll start with you first. What would you say are some of the unique IT challenges, faced, by a big public entity like Syracuse University?
I wouldn't say general on the whole for the whole campus, but I'm kind of in my little container and facilities, and so as larger organizations, some of the larger departments or academic units have the freedom to deploy unique solutions such as scale or anything that you might come up with. Part of my challenge is in our group, being a small group overall, is budget-wise is really tough a lot of times, and fitting in a solution that's capable to fulfill your needs is tough. And so that was a real huge challenge with the time, resources, being able to spend to do that and keep your day-to-day stuff going.
Right.
So when I came across Scale, I didn't, for whatever reason, it never came up initially on my list. And when I started looking at it, I'm like, this seems too good to be true. And the more I looked at it and started talking with people at Scale, it was, I'm like, this is really good, and started talking, numbers. And, that started panning out, and it just one thing after another just came into place. And I'm quite happy right now. So saved a lot of time, fit in the budget. The solution is fully capable. So
Great.
Yeah.
Same question for you, Tim. You have unique challenges, dealing with the public as opposed to maybe our retail panel from yesterday.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, budget is a huge thing, right? We're a public group, so all publicly funded. So we really need to make sure that every last dollar is accounted for, and that we're doing the best with the money we have on things. So that's definitely a huge challenge that we face. But beyond that, we're a primary PSAP, which means all 911 calls for our area flow through us before they go to any other police agencies like the OPP, which are provincial police force, or over to the military base. We have a base there as well, or to ambulance or fire. It all comes to us first. So ensuring that we have 24/7 operations on that is pretty critical, and ensuring that we make sure that our communicators are able to answer every call that comes in without any issues. Big challenge. Beyond that, our police force as well, our officers in the field, police are already laden down with enough body armor and other technology and other things. So adding to ensuring that they can be able to do their job, whether they're on a bike or in a car or in a riding a motorcycle, right? We all these things have to be. We have to give them the ability to be able to do their job. So we have to try to do what's called like a connected officer sort of platform where we can make sure that wherever they're working, they have the ability of accessing full resources. So that's definitely a challenge that we're faced with, and Scale is definitely helping us out with that a lot.
So can you talk a little bit about what that means, the connected officer?
Yeah, it just basically means that our officers need to be connected to and have the ability, just as if they're sitting in the office, they need to have access to full resources they have there, or if they're riding a bike or they're walking down the beat, they still have full access to be able to do whatever they need to do. So we're not hampering them in any way. They have access to the technology that was going to allow them to be able to meet those needs and demands.
And that's all running on Scale?
It's all, everything we do is running on Scale right now, so we're very happy with the platform. It's been, a huge transition for us and a huge game changer for us and the ability of what we can do with the Scale platform.
Okay. Tony, you've mentioned to me that one of the main IT challenges you faced was balancing the need to maintain your existing production systems without sacrificing the ability to bring new systems online. Can you talk a little bit about that and how the automation in the software is helping you manage through that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges I was facing was, the current system that I deployed, prior to Scale took a lot of effort to bring online, and I wasn't really looking forward to doing that again.
What was the system?
It was a combined Cisco NetApp solution.
Okay.
So there was a lot of different pieces that needed to be integrated for that solution, and keeping the existing solution running and then looking forward to doing the same thing again and balancing all that. I wasn't looking forward to it, and Scale, like I said, it was hard to believe when I looked into it, but it's almost an out-of-the-box solution. Not a lot of effort to spin it up once it's racked, and it was great.
Well, you've said hard to believe twice. So
Yes, I did.
Was our salesperson just too magical?
No, I
is
mean, you read a lot of literature and the solutions that that you're searching for to fit what you're trying to do, and a lot of them are just classic, 5-10-year-old solutions, and I see Scale as a modern solution, integrating the components that were separate before, and getting rid of a lot of the minutia of setting up and configuring. It was just, I think I did 2 half-hour sessions for installation, and I was ready to use the system. So that was far and beyond what it was before when I went through the first
right?
cycle. Oh yeah. So it was a godsend.
Hannah, is that something I'm assuming you hear often, or is this an unusual case?
Not at all. I mean, pretty much any customer or partner that's new kind of has the preemptive jitters of I'm switching solutions or I'm moving critical systems that my job could be on the line if these systems aren't moved over to the Scale platform. And so there's that inherent anxiety. But something that our customer success coordinators do well is giving a very easy to follow plan and kind of calming down those jitters with being able to assign specific, maybe even higher level engineers to give them the timelines that they need to have the implementations done in the way that and in a timely manner, and then also just making sure that we have the correct resources to migrate things over that are critical to them, and give them that kind of ease of mind of implementation once it's done. And that's always my favorite part is like, they come back and they're like, you were so right. I just needed to calm down and everything was going to be fine. And that's always my favorite part of the journey is when that big sigh of relief kind of hits them and they're just happy to be on Scale. So,
Because, we have to be, honest and realistic. Sometimes migration's hard, right? It doesn't always go as smoothly as what we're hearing here.
Well, I'm still in the process, so it's a few minor bumps, but nothing significant. Yeah,
Okay.
So.
And we have had, of course, some bumps with some customers. And how do we address that in that case, Hannah?
I'm sorry.
If we hit some bumps, customer's not happy, what do we do?
So first thing is really just to reach out and, get a full scope of what's going on. Most of it has to deal with, talking them off the ledge a little bit, and it's going to be all right, and we're going to find a solution for this. And then also finding the resources that are going to mitigate that in a timely fashion. Something that our services technical engineers do very well is that they are, at the drop of a hat, they're ready to call a customer or partner and get it taken care of, much like our support team. But our services technical engineers are highly trained professionals, and they're always looking for new things to train on and be able to fix within the Scale environment so that it is a seamless transition, even though there are some bumps in some cases along the way.
Sometimes, not usually.
Yeah,
Not
I'd like-
usually.
I'd like to add to that. We have, in the policing industry, we have some, police-specific applications that are not exactly standard. So some of those can be really, really hard to migrate. So the scale support team have been phenomenal in helping us get those stubborn ones that are just really hard to move, moving them over there. Like, it's been great having them to lean on to get that extra support.
Oh, yeah.
In that case, you did a service, correct?
Yep.
Service support for it because they were complex.
Yep.
All right, Tim, I'm going to stay with you then. Why don't you talk a little bit about, we were talking this a little up backstage, how the IT requirements have evolved for the police department in just the past few years. It's moving so quick.
Yeah, definitely. Like, sorry, I've only been with the police for 2 years, and in that short time that I've been there, it's just, there's been massive changes. Like I was mentioning earlier, the connected officer sort of theory of things is definitely, really progressing really fast. Data-driven policing is something that's really coming up. So there's a lot more congregating of data into databases, creating data warehouses, and making informed decisions based on the data you have. So that is
I'm sorry, you called that data-driven
data-driven policing.
That's
yeah.
interesting.
So
Okay.
now you're having a lot of this data coming in. Now you've got to create the dashboards out of it. You've got to start analyzing this. So this is something we're just starting to move into, and the Scale platform, we're all being NVMe systems and stuff like that. It's fast. It's really helping out with our data warehousing aspect of things. There's also a huge transition right now from going from E911 over to NG911. So that's a huge transition. All the copper phone lines are going to be gone. They're going to be kicked out the door. Incoming will be new fiber optic lines and SIP trunks. So that's now a huge transition of our 911 operations into the more modern age. And beyond that, we'll be able to, 911 calls will not only be just voice calls, but they'll be able to do it by text as video as well. So now, that also brings them to, more video, right? So video is going through the roof with body cams, the potential for the videos through 911 calls, evidence gathering. Everybody's got phones that have hundreds of gigs of data on the phone. So every time, a phone is seized or something like that, that data needs to be congregated, and where does it go? On our systems. So all this stuff is being there, so the data is just going through the roof. Compute is going through the roof. It's really changing a lot in the last couple of years.
What have you been seeing from a facilities perspective at a huge university?
Facilities is a challenge a lot because our group gets tasked with a lot of things coming down the pipe that they weren't aware of. So it kind of ripples down to IT, and so you need to be able to adjust and respond, as quickly as you can. And so the better the platform you have that can, spin up new systems, the smoother things go, and the more happy people are.
Yes, it's IT's job to
Yeah.
keep everyone happy.
Yeah, because what we run into lately a lot is the university is either expanding out in either by building new buildings or purchasing buildings, and the transition happens, and those buildings, especially the existing ones, will have an existing management system in it, and they don't want to spend the money at that point in time. We have to support what's in there, so that's something new that gets added onto the plate. And,
Right.
So again, it's a ripple effect, and so it's a challenge at sometimes, but the better tools you have, the better off you are. So.
Right, it gives you flexibility.
Yep.
And is there video surveillance as well that you're responsible for as part of
Yeah,
facilities?
that's actually part of a group that would be similar to what Tim has. So
It's more with the security aspect.
it's public security.
Okay. Yeah, we're seeing an interesting convergence. In some cases, it's with IT, and in some
It
cases,
does
it's
vary.
separately.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And even in the organization, it's moved around over the years. So even like card access, right now it's actually split between our group and I think public security because they're in this transition phase. And those transition phases can last a long time.
Right, so you have to be ready for that to potentially
You need to
swing
support
back.
it for as long as they need it, yes.
Yeah.
So,
All right, thank you for that. All right, Tony, I think you talked to this, but what was the catalyst that made you want to decide to upgrade?
Who are you talking to?
Talking to you.
Oh, the catalyst to,
Yeah.
to upgrade? Oh, that's easy. Our existing system was end of life. And,
It was end of life.
Yes, yeah, so that was a no-brainer. But it was just a challenge to, like I said, was talking about earlier with the budget and, finding a solution with the capabilities you're looking for that fit in the budget.
So your considerations were budget, simplicity, it sounds like, since there's two of you only.
Yeah, I think simplicity was just a benefit
Okay.
of finding the solution. It wasn't like at the top of my list. DR and HA is really at the top of my list. And
Okay.
So that was, but that kind of drove into finding another solution, other solutions that had different capabilities. Scale being the ease of use. So.
And was it a large approval process? I mean, was it up and down
Yes,
the chain?
unfortunately. That's what kind of dragged out the purchase process. Yeah.
Right,
So
and I think that's typical for a lot of
probably,
people,
yes. Yeah.
is a large approval process. Has it become more complex to get things approved in the past few years, or is that standard?
Yeah, I think it's pretty standard.
Okay.
Especially for the larger the organization, the more complex.
The more
so,
complex,
yeah,
more people are
yeah,
involved.
yeah.
Great. And then, Tim, what obstacles did you encounter when getting approval to refresh your IT infrastructure, and what helped you sell the urgency of the project?
Yeah, so for us, I guess when I came into the position, there's a lot of stuff that, because of the pandemic before that, and supply chain issues, a lot of stuff was sort of lagging behind, I guess. So when I got in there's a lot of stuff that needed to be refreshed and changed all at once. So, obviously budget was a huge concern, trying to find something that we could get in budget, and then also just trying to find some ways of simplifying the systems, because with a small IT team, we just couldn't keep it running how it was before. We were running Nutanix and VMware, and those are not exactly cheap systems or easy systems to use for a small IT team. So we needed to sort of look at what we could do to simplify. So we spent a fair bit of time researching all the different vendors out there, and I've used Scale in the past, so I was very aware of how phenomenal they were. And so it came down to us, budgeting and just getting something that's going to be able to be simple to use, that we could really leverage as a solid platform for the future and expand on and grow with as we continue to grow. Because we knew, we're going to be growing. We've already added one cluster to the system. We've only had it for a year, so
Right.
we're definitely growing.
So, Tim, from the perspective of a law enforcement agency, how big a concern is ransomware?
Oh, that's a huge concern. I mean, probably next to healthcare, we're probably one of the most targeted groups out there, it seems. So we definitely are constantly being, targeted with ransomware, and just, this whole Scale architecture, like they were talking in a few meetings before this, it just, the setup is perfect for adding that extra layer of security in there to help us out. And, we do the snapshots, and then we're doing replication to our DR site. We're using Acronis for backups, and then we're using, we're going to be, haven't rolled it yet, but we're going to be using open text availability for DR platform, helping with the DR. And so, I mean, all the tools that Scale provides and the partnerships that Scale provides are really helping us out a lot on making sure that we have a really solid foundation for, if the worst does happen, that we're going to be able to get through it, and we'll be able to move over to our DR site, especially with the 911 systems. We can't have any downtime with that, so we need to be able to make sure we can have a seamless transition over to our DR site if needed.
Hannah, is that something you hear as part of this process, the implementation process, how important the HA is, and of course security concerns? Has that come up more lately, or has that always been a concern?
It's always kind of an inherent kind of concern as far as security goes. I think that on the back end, DR is a little more prevalent because, disaster is more likely to strike in most IT people's
Yes.
minds, like, tornado just ran through my infrastructure and we just refreshed and we just didn't buy a DR system. And that's your fail safe,
Right.
And so, especially for people who are concerned with ransomware, a DR site is critical to something like that happening because, you have that backup, you have that Acronis that's able to, fill back in the parts that you need, and Scale's just wonderful from top to bottom. I mean, Craig was talking about security earlier, and it's it's seamless, It's a really beautiful platform, and I think that it gives peace of mind to a lot of organizations across the board, whether they're universities or police departments or Chick-fil-A. It gives them a little bit of peace of mind on the back end that, that's not likely to happen with the Scale platform. And if it does, we have things to roll them back up and get them into a secure position.
One other thing that's sort of not really talked about a lot is the fact that it's stupid simple, right? So I mean, with VMware and Nutanix and other products we've had to use in the past, like if you make one mistake on your setup or something like that, that's going to directly affect your DR strategy, or could make your DR strategy not even work potentially in what you're doing. There's so many different options. So if you don't have this, someone who's dedicated and knows that stuff inside and out, you can potentially screw up something that causes it just to not work when you need it to work. Whereas with Scale, I mean, it's so simple and easy. Everything's taken away. It's all behind the scenes and just done for you. So it's almost idiot-proof. It's so good.
And the training getting into that is just like top-notch. Like they give you so much information, and then even, maybe it's been years since you've even gone through that BCDR planning service, or even the Acronis Quick Start service. And you can call into support, and they're like, we've got all the notes. We know what you went through to create your run book. We know kind of what your plan is, and we're here to help you enact that plan should you need it.
So I could talk to my customers all day, and I'm seeing the clock and realize my questions went longer than should be. So if we could turn the lights up to give people in the audience an opportunity to ask questions. We just have a few minutes left. And my runners with the questions, thank you. All right, did someone have a question? All right, great. Taylor?
Oh, wow, look at that. It appeared behind me. All right, so Tom, you mentioned you'd already deployed Scale, so maybe this is more a question for Tony, but you guys are really positive. As a product person, I like to pull out some of the negative. What were you worried about going into the deployment? Can you think back to, maybe it's now been resolved, but maybe for people here who are looking ahead of their deployment, what concerns did you have?
Any worries that I had? Is that what you're asking?
Concerns?
Yes.
I guess the one concern I did have was I'm an information person. I like to do a lot of homework. And when I first started delving into the Scale solution, there's not a lot of deep technical documentation, which I'm always used to. And I'm like, well, where is this stuff? And it didn't exist because you didn't need it. Once I just started working it very briefly, you just learn your way around the interface, and it's very intuitive. After you're just using it for a little while, and the speed of which you can deploy, and you were talking about DR. Just doing DR is just super easy.
Super easy.
I have two clusters. You point them at each other, and you set up your replication, and doing the cloning is just super easy. And so that kind of once I got into that, it just alleviated any concerns that I really did have. It just kind of diving into it. Almost a leap of faith, but but
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, that person's just scratching his nose. He wasn't raising his hand. All right, it looks like we did a terrific job covering your implementation. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Please give them a great round of applause for sharing with us today.